Public hearing closed. Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would move approval with an explanation.
We have a motion for approval. It's been seconded. Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think it's important that we approach this, obviously, with a great deal of caution. I was born in Nashville. I was raised in Nashville. I spent every day of my life catching an MTA transfer bus downtown, and I think I'm intimately familiar with the area. I've worked there for 20 years, and I think I'm fairly familiar with the significance that Lower Broadway is to the heart and soul of Nashville, and also to, frankly, our revenue and to our tourism industry. But there are two fundamental perspectives which do not seem to be appreciated enough. The first is, what can be built now? And the second is, who can build there now? Under the first perspective, what can be built there now, without so much as whispering in our ear or requesting any rezoning, the property owners can build a fairly massive hotel right now, today. And if this proposition tonight fails, guess what they're going to do? It's not a choice. It is not a choice between this hotel and keeping things the way they are. It is the choice between Hotel A and Hotel B. And that is the only choice we have because of the strength of property rights in this state. We don't have the power to address the concerns that you've raised. And the difference in the size between the hotels, as you saw from the demonstration, is about 9%. So what is the responsible thing to do when you sit in these chairs? When you have just that amount of leverage, you try to bargain as much as you can with the developers to get what you can to prevent this from happening again. And in my eyes, that meant two things. Number one, the reason we are here today is because, unlike 2nd Avenue, there is no historic zoning overlay on Broadway at all. MDHA has been calling for it since 1982, and that's why we're here now. So let's make that a condition. Before the Westin bill, before the Westin Hotel has their final site plan approved, there has to be an historic zoning overlay in place, and that is underway now. We'll probably have that bill filed January 20th, and if the overlay doesn't pass, I won't support the Westin. The second thing that I admit was not a result of public outcry, but was just personally important to me, was that the hotel be LEED certified, which essentially requires it to be environmentally sensitive, and that it includes the green roof component. LEED certification derived from meetings from design specialists and architects beginning in the year 2000, who noted that various structures were being touted as environmentally sensitive and nobody knew what it meant. It's kind of like going to the grocery store and you see foods advertised as organic and nobody knows what that means. Well, they've since derived a specific set of criteria. There are two developers that are here tonight, and for the first time, when I met with both of them and suggested to them that maybe you could pursue LEED certification to make this more palatable to us, they didn't laugh at me. And they took the environmental obligations of this city seriously. Historic preservation is enormously important to me. And I want in 20 years my children to be able to see structures that are important to the soul of this city. But I also want them to breathe. And that's why that, to me, is a more important objective. The second criteria that we talked about is who can build there. And the sad fact of the matter is, as we stand here today, property prices in downtown, and particularly Lower Broadway, are just skyrocketing. And when this project was first brought to me, the opponents said, Mike, Lower Broadway is known for its smaller scale businesses, its honky-tonks and its gift shops and its small boutiques, and that's what we need to preserve. And I agree. I would love that to be the case. But there is not a single mom and pop shop that can afford the property values today. And even if they could, the revenues that they would derive from any small-scale business isn't enough to pay the note. My very good friend, Bob Took, tonight referenced the old Janon Blair Hotel. And I think he and I took two very different lessons from that hotel. What happened was in about 1987, an out-of-state hotel developer came to 2nd Avenue, right in the middle of the historic district, at 2nd and Church, where there's a parking lot there. and they proposed an umpteen-story hotel right in the middle of what is an historic area. And the preservation community, I think, rightly came out and opposed the development of that hotel because those developers did nothing like what you've seen tonight to fit into 2nd Avenue. But it got defeated, and maybe that was the right thing to do. But the point I'm making is that the parking lot that was there in 1987 is still a parking lot today. Why? Because the people that you think you want on Lower Broad can't afford to do what you want them to do. We have to engage those larger moneyed developers. And those are evil words to most of us, including me, because I consider myself a preservationist at heart. But I know what's going to happen. There's not a surgeon in the world that tells you that the way to save a limb is to cut off the blood supply. We can't cauterize Lower Broadway and think it's going to thrive. There are treatises written on this stuff. And you look at other cities and see how they've treated their historic districts. They don't isolate them. They encourage surrounding development. I can give you page after page about developments in Denver, for example. The 13th Avenue Historic District sort of trundled along, didn't really generate any enthusiasm or any improvements until a mixed-use development came in next door, and today it thrives. 8 to 10 blocks away, the Old Town Historic District has languished because it's that distance away, and they have cauterized that development area. And that is what we can't allow to happen to Lower Broadway. My other good friend, Gordon Gilbreth, referenced the Westin's development in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And he told you that they came in with a 20-story proposal, and they just couldn't go any lower. But lo and behold, the council put the thumb screws to them, and they came down to 9 stories. And I know Gordon told that story in good faith because I think I told it to him when I was very skeptical of this project. I have since done my homework. I've contacted our equivalent.
1 minute, Councilman.
Contacted our equivalent in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And yeah, they came down from what was originally 15 stories to 9 stories, but they went out and actually expanded their square footage. They need the square footage to meet the return on investment to keep the financial backers involved. That's simply the way it works. 11% is the national standard, and they're actually coming in under that at the 19-story proposal they have. But again, I can't reiterate enough that the bottom line for us is between Hotel A and Hotel B. It is not between the Westin and the status quo. Thank you.
Thank you. And to council members, the clocks on the board are not working, but we do have the timer down here, so I'll let you know when you have a minute left. Councilor A. Tucker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor. As I had come into council, I was not really sure as to which way I would be in terms of the vote. I listened to what the constituents had to say on both sides, and then I began to read what was in the Planning Commission's report. And it's because of what I find in the Planning Commission's report that I can't support it. And I'm going to just take a few of the minutes that I might have and read some of the reasons why. On the first one has to do with consistent with the policy. Under it, it says that it's a question mark. And generally, you don't get a question mark when it comes up with, is it consistent with the policy? So it gives the simplicity of the statement saying that, yes, it is consistent with it in its simplicity form. However, it is more complex